we come from nothing. We used to wash our clothes, right? We used to wash our clothes in a hands washboard in the backyard. We used to warm up our water in fire and like a big old titanium cover, and that's where we would warm up our water. We used to have this little section in the house where it was concrete, a little piece of a block of concrete with a drain system in that. Like, we didn't even have toilets inside the house, bro. We had them in.
Welcome to another episode of the True Life Network podcast. Today's guest is a serial entrepreneur who came to this country illegally as a little boy and was raised by a single mother working 2 jobs to support her 3 kids. After becoming a U.S. citizen and working a corporate job for 14 years, he then quit to pursue the dream of building his own real estate investment company, which scaled quickly, producing 6 figures every single month in multiple markets. He now owns 29 businesses, which 10 of them are grossing 7 figures a year. Ladies and gentlemen, today I bring to you the one and only Carlos Reyes. Carlos, brother, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, man. Man, oh man, it's crazy. I never get used to the introduction, of like, this dude came from nothing, came from Mexico. We actually own 31 companies. No big deal. Who's counting, right? I never get. It's still surreal. Like, I'm literally living my dream, man. I'm living my dream, and I'm very grateful. Like, that's the one thing that I am now more grateful than ever. Right? I practice more gratitude than ever. I operate in more love and joy than ever. And I'm in the best place in my life than I've ever been, all around. Business, yeah, monetarily, that's cool, right? But I'm more connected to my family than ever. I'm more connected to God than ever. I'm more connected to myself than ever. My health is amazing. It's thriving, compared to we'll talk about that, man. I just lost about 50-60 pounds in the last like 10 months, man. So
congrats, bro.
I can't wait to not. I don't want to just tell people like, hey, go do this and go. I want to show people, right, the how to. Like, this is how you can become successful. And if you're not massively successful, that's okay. This is how you can become happy, fulfilled, right? And to me, happiness, fulfillment, like that's the ultimate success for me.
100.
I've been poor, I've been rich, I've been poor and unhappy, I've been rich and unhappy. And now it's like I'm successful and happy, right? It's taken so many trials and tribulations and lessons, right? Failures, lessons from the failures to get to where I'm at right now, this specific moment in my life. And I can't wait to share that with everybody out there that's either watching or listening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, we're definitely going to get into the story, right? But there's something important that you actually just said there, right? The whole gratitude factor and the fulfillment portion as well, right? I think that's ultimately the key to happiness. And before we actually jump into your story, because I think it's a phenomenal story, and I think it's something that, once again, your mess is your message, right? So being able to share that with other people, they can relate emotionally and actually take action to change their lives. But before we get into that portion, I want to talk to you about gratitude and fulfillment. What exactly does that mean to you, and how has that actually changed your life and your own abilities to go out there and create what you created?
For me, brother, 2 years ago, going on 3 now, I started my personal development journey. I had more money than I ever thought I would have. But I was overweight. I had no connection with my baby girls, my 9-year-old and my 3-year-old. I had very little connection with my wife. I had no connection to myself. I wasn't taking care of myself, clearly, in so many aspects of life. So I wasn't a very grateful person. I was kind of just chopping through the bushes, You can't see the forest from the trees, they say, right? And man, like there's a lot of people out there that make money, but they're not happy. They're not. They're not. Um, they're either, they're like one of my mentors told me this several years ago. He says, Carlos, 86% of people in today's society are living in some type of pain. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? He's like, yeah, man, like 86% of people are living in pain. That's almost 9 out of 10 people that are living in pain. He said, whether it's financial pain, right? Relationship pain, health pain. You see what I'm saying, right?
100%.
Like internal issues, I mean, so many different kind of pains out there that people don't understand. They think of pain as like, oh man, I just hit my toe on this corner. Like that's not the type of pain I'm talking about. You could be successful, you can have all the things in the world, right, and still be living in pain. And you can be living in subconscious pain where you don't even know that you're in pain until slowly, right, things start to come to the surface. You start to ask yourself these questions like, man, I'm more successful than ever. Why can't I feel my daughter's love? I'm more successful than ever. Why am I not connected to God the way I once was? I'm more successful than ever. Why am I not connected to my wife the way I should be? You see what I'm saying?
100%.
Right? A lot of people don't understand that just because you have money and you become this massively successful person, man, if you don't peel back the layers of that onion and start to really dig deep internally and subconsciously, you're going to self-sabotage everything that you've been building for the last 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, whatever it is. Because if you do not heal yourself internally, at some point, you could buy your ticket to hell. Like you could literally buy your ticket to destruction, which will be caused on your own, because a lot of folks don't understand this, but our external worlds, right, from our businesses to our relationships, everything, man, it's just a reflection and an extension of who we are inside.
100%.
Who we are inside. And people need to like when people start asking these questions of, hey, why am I not happy? Right. And not like victimize themselves, but like really ask the deep rooted, hard questions. Why don't I have a relationship with my daughters? Why can't I feel my family's love? Why do I not love myself enough to take care of myself? When you start asking yourself these questions is when your mind starts to direct its focus on the things that really need nurturing as soon as possible.
Now, I'm right there with you. And I actually always talk about this, especially with people on my team, because I think that even as salespeople, when I'm working with my sales team, at the end of the day, they're working on their own abilities, right? So they have to rely on themselves, right? So it's that self portion, right? I always tell them this: most people are allowing the external to influence what's going on internally, when in reality, if you can go ahead and take control of that internal game and master it, you can influence what you want externally, right? And for example, with sales, that really takes plays a role in it, because at the end of the day, you're worried about what that other person on the other side of the phone is worrying about, thinking about you. When in reality, if you could really just be confident in yourself and know that you're there just to contribute, hey, you know what? They're going to be able to pick up on that energy, right? But going back to that whole portion of the external influencing what's going on internally, the relationship that creates with yourself is you're actually trying to please that external world rather than what's internal, right? And I think that's where the gratitude portion comes into play. And I want to hear what you have to say in regards to internal validation, gratitude, and just ultimately going out there and being yourself.
Yeah, I would say the majority of today's society, especially with everything that's going on, in the digital world and social media, right? It's external validation has become more important than internal validation, self validation.
Why do you think that is?
It's like, what was that?
Why do you think that is, though?
Because that's the way that people are measuring their value. That how many likes
Who
do I
created this ruler, though? Like this ruler to measure their value, right? Who created it? Who's implying that into our own perception?
you know uh I think the way that technology has evolved, it was inevitable, but 99% of people have bought in, because 99% of people are not critical thinkers. Like, we're not a critical thinking society, right? This is why, a lot of countries have governments in place, because, why were governments created? To govern, to govern the entire world, the entire country. Do this, do that, comply with this, comply with that, right? And I get it. There should be some type of civil rules, like, hey, man, you probably shouldn't run a red light because you can hurt somebody. I get it. But a majority of people, to be quite honest with you, they want to do what's easy. And you know what's easy? To not think. What's easy is to be told what to do and not actually think of, like, damn, I should, and that's where entrepreneurship comes in, right? Because most entrepreneurs, we're critical thinkers, man. I get it. Like, if I'm always going to respect and value your perspective and your opinion, right? But a lot of that is subjective. You know that, right? The way that you look at the world may be different than the way that I look at the world, right?
Okay.
Every single brain, every single mind is a different world, by the way. Think of this, right? Everybody's racing around to create this other world called the metaverse, right? Well, think of every single brain. That's every single brain right now. There's over 7 billion people in the world. They got their own metaverses already in there, and they don't even know that, like, that's the world that we already live in. Like, I have my own metaverse in my brain already, right? So now it's like everybody's racing to create this digital world. Well, guess what? I think that what that digital world is going to be able to do, again, it's going to push the society even worse. Even worse, there's going to be consumers, and there's going to be people that profit from people's consumption, as always, in the history of time. But now more than ever, you're going to be able to, like I was saying this on the other day, build relationships there, and pretty much surface level relationships, because I'm not even going to know what you look like in there. You know what I mean? Like, the guy I'm seeing right now, like, you can dress up as Shrek if you want, right? And then, like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever you want. Have you seen that movie, Ready Player One?
I have.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't see why. If you look at, like, I got a 9-year-old and I got a 3-year-old, and I had to talk to my wife about this, because I'm like, electronics is not going to raise my children, So now she's being more vigilant about how much time they're spending on Roblox. My 3-year-old and my 9-year-old, they're already in the metaverse. My 9-year-old builds, like, literally develops land in the metaverse, in her metaverse, which is Roblox. She already buys NFTs in the metaverse, which are, through Robux, aka, digital crypto now, digital currency, Robux. She's buying NFTs, right? These collectibles inside Roblox, which is the metaverse. Isn't that crazy? And you can call me a crazy off the wall conspiracy theorist, but if you want to change the future, you start with programming who and what? The children, the next generation. You get what I'm saying? It's easier.
I'm right there with you. I mean, bro, I was
It's
honestly
easier.
about to get into this before you even said the word conspiracy, right? I was going to say this, like, I'm not even
Yeah.
joking. You can call me a conspiracy theorist or whatnot, but I think that the greatest form of control is being in a prison cell and not even realizing that you're in a prison cell, right?
Crazy.
The things that we're watching
So
on
we're
TV,
drifting, by the way. We're drifting away from what really matters, which is what you
100%.
said, connection to self, connection to God, creator, connection to other people, right? Spiritual connection. We're drifting away from that. And when you drift away from internal connection, well, then that's when you really need external validation, because you're kind of an empty carcass at this point. You're an empty shell. And what makes what makes you believe the value that you hold in this world is what other people think about you, say about you, view you, like, brother, that's what's going on right now. And what's crazy is, like, back in the 90s, people thought the internet was a conspiracy theory, right? And look where we are today with the internet and all that. It's again, you can use technology for good. I try to use it for good. I try to use it to reach, to impact, hundreds of thousands, if not, God willing, millions of lives. I try to reach it to reach, impact, and inspire, not motivate. I don't give a shit about motivation. Inspire in spirit,
Which means
move
lead by
people
example.
spiritually, move people spiritually. That's what I want to do with the rest of my life. I said this time and time again. I'm like, man, I don't want to be the type of, the type of millionaire that is all about the money and the flash. I've been there, bro. By the way, I went through that phase where, back in 2018, I bought the watches and the Rolls Royces, and I don't know why I went to Peter Marco in Beverly Hills and bought like a $70,000 chain, like for no reason, right? I thought I was a rapper back in 2018, So again, but you know what, brother? The way that my life has been defined, and the way that my knowledge has came to me, my wisdom is through experience. So I had to go through those phases to know what I want and what I don't want. I even had like an identity crisis, because when you start to detach yourself from all the upbringing and all the programming that you've been through your entire life, right? You do go through somewhat of an identity crisis, man.
Well,
You're like, holy smokes.
you know what I think a huge factor of it plays into? I think that ultimately, all right. So, for example, the watches, the chains, everything like that. Most people see that because of the whole rap scene and like the entertainment industry and things like that, right? So they're saying, okay, hey, they're doing it. Why don't I utilize that strategy to market myself to get awareness? Because obviously
And I
everybody
did.
knows
And I
awareness.
did.
Exactly. Everybody knows though, awareness creates revenue, right? You have to be known in order for people to
Well,
be wanting to do business with you. People only do business
yeah.
with people who they know, right? So they start to put on this persona. They start getting the watches. And don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, I play a little bit of the game. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I do the.
I love watches, bro.
I'm right there
Like
with you.
I love watches, but at the same time, I'm no longer using it
To promote yourself.
to attract, to market myself.
100%.
I used to use my financial gains to market. But you know what I was attracting back, who I was attracting back
The
then,
wrong crowd.
in 2018? Clout chasers.
Yep. And I think that's a huge portion of it though, because when you're marketing it like that, right? Because you're surrounding yourself in that, all right, there's that quote, fake it till you make it, right? I think that most people have that perception of fake it till you make it, like flaunt it like I made it, right? And when you're surrounding yourself in that environment, what you surround yourself with is what you become. So you're consistently putting yourself in that role, and naturally you become that person because you're surrounding yourself with it so much, right? And I think that most people kind of lose sight from why they originally started, what the purpose was, and they feel lost. And I think that's where the lack of fulfillment and purpose comes from, because they think that hey, I gotta, keep up this image and,
Surface level, man.
100%.
I have a timer on I have a timer in my phone where it notifies me when I've been on either Facebook or Instagram for 1 hour.
I
You
gotta
have
do that,
five
bro.
minutes left. Huh?
I gotta do that.
Yeah, I do. I really like, if I go on Facebook right now, it'll tell me like you have 15 minutes left today. Because you know what, bro? I don't want to get carried away with that stuff. I've already been down that road, and it leads to a very, very dark place. So back to the clout chasing, by the way. Back in 2018, when I was marketing myself, it was my easiest like entry barrier, or like, for me to actually start like attracting attention and lives, was like, well, God, I was convincing myself, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to use my cars and my jewelry and money, to attract lives. Because if I could attract lives, this is me justifying it back then, if I could attract lives, then I can impact, I can reach and change lives. So that's what I used to say to convince myself. But now, when I started to no longer do those things, now I attract the a reflection of my avatar,
Mhm.
a serious businessman, a husband, a father, like spiritual people. Like my whole community has changed from like clout chasing, these little like 18 to 23, 24-year-old, like, and hey, nothing against them, because guess what, man, they're still going through the growth process,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Like no one has it all figured out. Not me, not anybody. So, but now that I've changed the message, I'm attracting more quality lives than ever, right? We're more fruitful monetarily than ever. We're having more reach and more impact than ever. just because I changed the message. I changed the message.
Well, let me ask you this. So, I mean, I get the whole game, right? You got to kind of do that chasing just for a little bit to kind of get the attention to eventually get to that point where you can go ahead and reach those people, right? Just people
Absolutely.
get stuck in that little forefront portion, right, where they're trying to get that little bit of attention. Do you think that it's possible to get to that point without going through there?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I know a lot of people that um you know, I feel like, and nothing against Grant Cardone, but I think he had a really, really big impact and influence on a lot of the stuff that's out there now in the entrepreneur world, if you think about it, right? Because Grant's been in the game for 20 years, maybe, 20 years, right? And he didn't make it a secret when he started to get money about 10 years ago, right? He it wasn't no secret. Like, I heard that back in the day, he was training, he was going to car dealerships and training people for like $1,500 or something, right? Once he started making some serious money, he wasn't shy about it. Who's got my money? Where's my money? Like, money, 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 right? Watches, planes. Like, he wasn't shy about it. He wasn't shy about it. So, he had a huge impact on a lot of people out there. But guess what? When was the last time Tony Robbins flaunted a watch? You see
Facts,
what I'm
bro.
saying?
Big
Right? Like,
facts.
when was the last time Tony Robbins flaunted his plane?
Well, but
This man,
well, I think this plays a role into it too. Not many people understand how Tony got to where he's at, right? They don't really.
but it's not just Tony Robbins, brother. Look at, when was the last time Gary V was dripped in some Fendi?
I'm right there with you.
Never,
I'm right there with
right?
you. But
Because value, yeah.
to tell you the truth, if you look at Grant back in the day before he started flaunting all this stuff, right? He wasn't doing that either. And I'd still, all right, I'm not here to.
Well, maybe he didn't have the finances to do it at that time.
No, I'm right there with you, but I'm not here to shit on anybody. I respect everybody. If you make it to a certain level, like, hey, bro, I respect you because you did it. What most people can't do,
Yeah,
right?
do what you want.
But here's my perspective. I think that even Grant's older stuff, all his content back in the day was a lot better because I think at some point when you're flaunting all of it and you're living it, it gets to your head, right?
Well, ego is an sob, right? Ego is an sob. Brother, you can't have the best of both worlds. Like,
Yep.
you can't try to operate in love and enjoy high frequency and then have a big ego,
Yep.
right? You just can't, because ego, brother, ego has a lot to do with external validation. Back to what we were saying, your ego is fed by others, not even by yourself or for yourself. Your ego is fed by other people. And, a lot of people haven't figured this out yet, but if you want to become massively successful, there's a couple things that you have to do. One is you have to pretty much filter out all the baggage that we were programmed with from our parents, from teachers, from people telling us what to do, from our friends, from wherever, right? Like, you got to try to filter out all that negative baggage, that trauma, the trapped emotions that are inside on us, the cellular impressions that we made when we went through that trauma. You got to get rid of that stuff in order for you to continue to scale up, right? It's the Hawkins chart, the frequency chart, right? What people don't understand is that when you start to level up as far as the frequency that you're putting out into the world, right? If you're operating from love, if you're operating from joy, right? Then guess what? Now you start to manifest things in a matter of hours. Like, now everything that you want out of life starts to come very easy. Like, it's quantum physics, right? Some people, and I'm not a quantum physics expert like
Dr.
some of these other guys out there. I'm definitely not, but I'll tell you this: it's real, it's true, right? The more that you elevate your game internally, the more that you're actually able to manifest everything that you want in this 3D world.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
I'm right there with you. And I always tell everybody this too, because this goes hand in hand with exactly what you're saying. At the end of the day, your mind is the one thing that's either going to make you or break you. And that's because ultimately your perception will dictate how you feel, and feel meaning emotion, energy, right? Because what you're feeling is created by some kind of energy, right? Either created by the external or your own internal world. And ultimately, so your perception will dictate how you feel will dictate how you act, and how you act will determine your results. So I'm
Yep.
right there with you on the whole quantum field.
But and it comes down. People may not want to hear this, but guess what? It comes down to not only mind and not only spirit, but you got to align soul, right? Mind, body, spirit. You got to align. One of the books that changed my life back in like 2013 was Secret to the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. It's a very, very underrated book. And it literally talks about the alignment, and it talks about how your roots create your fruits, right? See, T. Harv Eker knew the internal game. Tony Robbins knows the internal game, right? A lot of these guys, they know the internal game. They know and if you take a look at like these folks that are massively successful, they're worth, 500 million, 1 billion, right? They know that it's more than just brain power and brain capacity. You have to align mind, body, spirit.
Yep.
You have to align mind, body, spirit. That's how you're going to operate to your highest physical capacity.
You know,
You know what I mean?
you know why I think that is though, the key word there, alignment, right? And I think that ultimately most people aren't in line in various, sectors of their lives, whether it's, personal relationships, business, etc., right? And I think that what that does is it creates confusion, right? And when you're confusion, you don't take action in order to, utilize your full potential. I tell everybody your potential is your worth, so utilize your full potential to go get what you're worth. But how can you utilize that full potential if you don't really understand your own potential and your worth, right? So I mean, like, I
Absolutely.
think it comes down to that alignment portion in order to gain clarity, because once you have that clarity, you understand how to maneuver, right? You know exactly what you need to do in order to act with intention in order to obtain a certain result. So that's my take on that.
And you know what, bro? We can, if anybody out there that's listening or watching, they can be sitting here thinking like, man, what the hell are these guys talking about? Right? What are these guys talking about? But guess what? You know, back, we didn't even talk about my story.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. It's like we got straight to it. For anybody out there that's listening, what the hell do I know about becoming successful? Well, let me just take you down my journey, right? Born in Mexico, right? And I know people don't think of Mexico as a a third world country, but the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of third world parts in that country. There's a lot of third world poverty in that country. I was born into that type of poverty in that country, right? No running water, no electricity, right? We're talking gas lamps. We're talking trucks coming up to the neighborhood, dirt roads, dirt floors in our house. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, people don't understand the type of situation that's going on down there because we're too busy caught up on what's going on right in front of us. Like my mom used to always say, a lot of people can't see past their nose, right? A lot of people can't see past their nose, which means a lot of people can't see past today. A lot of people can't see past what's going on in the world, right? Aside from your little world that you live in, which is like
Living in a
you, your
bubble.
job, your wife, you know what I mean? Like your little, right? Your little cubicle that you live in. Well, I grew up literally in Mexico where you're either extremely well off, politicians, lawyers, educated. Because guess what? To be educated, you got to have money. You, brother, I couldn't even afford elementary out there to buy pencils, to buy notepads, to buy notebooks, to buy clothes, to buy backpacks. Like I couldn't even afford to go to school. I couldn't even afford to go to school in Mexico. Most of the people in my neighborhood literally played soccer and walked around without shoes, literally dirt and rocks. Dirt and rocks. Sometimes, like, I feel so bad that I would take my shoes off. Thank God I had shoes, and don't get me wrong, I don't even know what kind of shoes they were. They were just black, plain black shoes with no brand on them. You know what I mean? Whatever my mom could get her hands on. My mom used to work in Mexico for $10 to $12 a week. A week. $10 to $12 a week. You see what I'm saying? Right? So anyway, that's the kind of world that I come from, man. It's like, we come from nothing. We used to wash our clothes, right? We used to wash our clothes in a hand washboard in the backyard. We used to warm up our water in fire and like a big old titanium cover, and that's where we would warm up our water. We used to have this little section in the house where it was concrete, a little piece of a block of concrete with a drain system in that. Like, we didn't even have toilets inside the house, bro. We had them in the back. Like, my grandfather built a back house where we, pissed and shit in the backyard, right? Inside of that house, where we lived, literally my grandpa, my grandma, me, my brother, my mother, my sister. Well, guess what? We were literally warm up the water and then take that warm water or that hot water into this other bucket, and with like a little tiny bucket, like if we bought butter, like, butter would come in like little buckets, right? We would use the little butter container to wash, to take showers in. Like, that was my life for most of my childhood. And one day, my mother was the black sheep of the family. She's the youngest of 11, right?
11?
She said, "Hey, 11." Yeah, back then they didn't have cable, direct TV, all that, right? So
I feel
they
like
got
time
really
up with
busy
something
back
else.
then. Social media, right? Yeah. So my mom literally was like, "Hey, I don't want this for my children. I want more for my children." So what she did was, she said, "Hey," she told my nana, my grandma, "Hey, I need you to take care of them while I try to create a life on the other side." El otro lado, which means the other side. In Mexico, we call the United States of America the other side, because a line, right, divides the other side. It divides the country, right? So my mom, came to California the first time, and she was out working the fields. She got amnesty, and then 2 years later, she came back and she got at that time my sister wasn't born yet. It was literally me and my little brother. And the first time, bro, like, we weren't legal, so she snuck us in through a sewer canal, literally holding me on one arm, and I'm sorry, holding my little brother on one arm and dragging me with her right arm, right? Can you imagine? Like, I can kind of vividly remember me going through this sewer canal. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't like we were going through rough water. No, it wasn't like that. It was a sewer canal, like those, like, how they got those bridges and then the canals just run and it's like a
Yeah.
bunch of sewer. Yeah, and it's like it goes, parallel down. You can actually walk down.
Mhm.
Like, that's how we came into this country the first time, was through a sewer canal, through San Isidro, which is right. It's a border near TJ, Tijuana, Mexico, by San Diego. So we went to Escondido. It was very expensive for a single mom. A year and a half later, we failed. We were living under a tree, and we had to come back to Mexico. We went back to Mexico, and we were pretty devastated because we sacrificed so much. First and foremost, I sacrificed 2 years of my childhood not being with my mother, right? And I can't even tell you the type of pain that caused me, the type of trauma. Like, when you're that young, brother, when you're an infant and your mom's not there every single day, right? The love of your mom is not there every single day. And the only way that you communicate with your mom is through letters, pictures through those letters, and phone calls at your aunt's house or at a neighbor's house, because we didn't have a phone, right? Every night you're going to bed as an infant, like, thinking like, man, like, why isn't my mom here? Does my mom not love me? What did I do? Like, that's all you're thinking as a child every single day for 2 years, right? And your grandma, my grandma used to do the best that she could. And my grandfather, like, no, 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 no. I know you don't understand right now, but she loves you so much. She's making sacrifices to create a better life for you. You don't understand that as a child. You don't. There's no way you can comprehend that. No way. So anyway, we failed, went back, and my mother and I went back to the drawing board. At this point in time, I'm between the third and fourth grade. And I tell my mom, well, she tells me, "Hey, son, you got to get a job." I'm about 8, 9 years old, right? You got to get a job.
Is that even legal?
You're going to be well, in Mexico, you can work as a little
Okay.
child. There's no, yeah. So, and at this point, I know just enough English to bag groceries near a resort town called San Carlos. So I'm bagging groceries and I'm speaking a little English and I'm making good, brother. I'm making about 10 to $15 a day. And at this point now in time, this is about 1996. She's making about $30 a week. So I'm making more money than her. I'm already the breadwinner at, like, in the fourth grade and fifth grade. So we save up enough money to send her on a bus back to Phoenix, Arizona, where I'm at today. And another year and a half, 2 years goes by. This time she only brings me over. She pays some random coyote, which is a human smuggler. I think it was like $40. I don't even remember exactly what it was. $25, she said. Back then, that was a lot of money. in 1996, 97, $25. And she says, hey, I'm going to meet you on the other side of the fence. He's going to take you to the other side to me, and I'm going to meet you at the McDonald's. So just do whatever he tells you to do, right? Some random dude that I've never seen in my life. He's a human smuggler, a coyote. All right. Okay, mom, I trust you. I love you. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it. I don't know this guy, but all right, whatever. Right. So sure thing. This dude, he sneaks me through a hole in the fence in Nogales, Sonora to to Nogales, Arizona. And then we get on a shuttle and then we make our way to Phoenix, Arizona. And then she started my paperwork process in 1997. And then I became a citizen of this country in 2012. And then I started my entrepreneur journey, 2013, 2014. And then the rest was history, man. I had to go through everything you can think of. Even, and by the way, my poverty situation didn't stop in Mexico. Like once I got here, we were dirt poor. Yes, we had our seasons where we were on food stamps and cash assistance and WIC, which is government like dairy, like cheese and milk. We went through all that here, man, like poverty. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like my mom used to have, for us to have furniture in the house, she used to have to go to a company called Rent-A-Center where she would make weekly payments for us to just have couches and beds. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the kind of upbringing and programming that I was created in, right? But I'm also very grateful because the other side of that programming was watching this woman work 2-3 jobs, never giving up, right? Like her grit, her work ethic, like I got all of that from her. She never told me you can't do anything in this world. Like she's like, hey, you can do anything in this world. Like she used to tell me that I was going to be like this great person. And guess what, man? I believed her. And then, in 2017, I retired her. She never has to worry about a dollar in her life ever again for the rest of her life. Praise God for that, man. So it's all worked itself out in some ways.
Well, let me ask you this, because I feel that, the most successful people, the most happy people actually come from a rough beginning, right? And I want to understand from your perspective, how did that, the whole portion of coming from, where you came from in Mexico, coming here illegally, and also seeing what your mom went through, how did that shape your mindset to really understand, okay, hey, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go get it and give my mom back, the life that she deserves?
Brother, I was born so far on one side of the pendulum, right? That all I wanted as a kid, like I remember being in Mexico and I remember like, because the reason why my father wasn't around is because he was a alcoholic and he used to, beat the crap out of my mom. And it wasn't like, oh, my dad left us. No, my mom left him. You know what I mean? It was one of those stories and he's still alive. And I haven't talked to him in about 2 years, but he never figured out his life. And the guy is now, he makes good money. But he's a mess and don't want nothing to do with that. But I'll tell you this, from seeing what we were going through, like the pain that we were constantly in, a lot of people don't know this, man, but it hurts to be that poor. Like it hurts. It hurts to be that. It hurts to not know, where you're going to make money. Like you're living day by day. Like, are we going to have enough money to eat? Are we going to have enough money to buy gas for the lamps? Are we going to have enough money to buy water from the water guy that comes up in the truck? And, like, are we going to have enough money to even put clothes on our backs? Right. Like it hurts. So all I used to think about when I was a little boy was like, I wanted the opposite. Man, I never man, for years and years and years, imagine like this little boy just programming himself thinking like, I don't want to go through this when I'm an adult. This is hell.
You know what I think is
This
so
is hell.
important there, though? You know what I think is so important there? I think that, ultimately, first of all, people who, are born into either money or even just, somewhat well off, right? Have a little bit, sustainability and security, right? I think that they become entitled. They don't understand the other side. I think it takes that pain.
Absolutely.
It really takes that pain to understand somewhat that yin and yang portion of, okay, going out and getting it and creating it yourself versus, okay, I'm waiting for my opportunity. It takes to know where you've been in order to know where you're going, because it brings an understanding to a certain level saying, hey, you know what? I don't want this no more. Enough is enough. I'm going to go create it rather than wait for my opportunity to try and get it. Right.
So let me ask you this, right? Because you have a newborn, right? You have a
Correct.
newborn. Your newborn, God willing, is not going to know the pain of poverty. your newborn, God willing, isn't going to know the pain of need, necessity, right? I got a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old, right? With my wife, I got no baby mamas. I'm one of those few entrepreneurs who has no baby mamas. No, I didn't remarry. No, I've been with the same woman, right? Thank God. And
Amen.
you know, my kids are not gonna know, God willing, the pain that I went through, right? But guess what? Like, how do you offset them not having pain of poverty and not having, the things that like we didn't have, right? I believe it was Bruce Lee, which I'm a huge fan of. This is what Bruce Lee said. He said, "Hey, instead of giving your kids all the things that you didn't get or have, teach them all the things that you weren't taught." Right?
I think that's
And
peak.
that's what I'm that brother. That's what I'm focused on with my children, my 9-year-old and my 3-year-old. Everything, every single day turns into a lesson.
100%.
My 9-year-old, like I literally, if something happens, I'll grab them very close, my 9-year-old and my 3-year-old, right? And I'll bring them very close, and then I'll talk to them and I'll pour into them every day. I really can sit here, right, with like hand on the Bible if I had one, that now that I'm connected to my family, the way I'm connected to them, I pour into them every single day. Like I am teaching them all the things that I wasn't taught. And that's what's going to be their superpower, not pain, not failure, right? It's going to be knowledge. It's going to be wisdom. It's going to be blueprint. And God willing, that's the way that we work that.
And you know what I think is honestly huge in regards to that? Like, for example, my dad, he actually came to this country from Iran at 19, not knowing the language. He came with one suitcase, right? He actually put himself through medical school, etc. You know,
Unbelievable. Beautiful.
during the war, his dad had to stop sending him money, so he had to literally leave school and then go ahead and start working in order to eventually go back to school and pay for it himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he actually built a substantial life for himself. Now we're living well, I'm not living with them anymore. I have my own house now. But back in the day, we were
Yeah.
living in Upper Saddle River, New Jersey. I went to high school with Ja Rule's daughter, Rev Run's kids, etc.
Oh,
Right. So
wow.
I grew up in a decent area, right? And the one thing that I honestly appreciate about my dad is he literally brought me up around all the nice stuff, but he made me
Yeah.
work for it. He made me understand the actual appreciation of work ethic, because I see other people having it and I'm like, oh, why not? Why can't I have it? Why can't you just give it to me just like everybody else's parents are giving it to them? He taught me that entitlement was a huge portion of winning the game. Not having that entitlement factor will allow you to really understand, okay,
I'm not owed nothing.
exactly.
Yeah, right. I'm not owed nothing. And that's what we're trying to teach our kids, man. Brother, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, like, it is quite the challenge to think about it, right? I'm dropping my, last year in the third, she's in the fourth grade now. Every single Monday, I was dropping my third grader off in my Rolls Royce. Think about the kind of entitlement. Like, what do you think is going through her? Like, she's already in a Rolls Royce at the age of 8 back then. You know what I'm saying? At the age of 7, right? Like, she's in a Rolls Royce, right? So it's like, like what is there out there that she, is going to desire so much that she's going to work really hard for it? There's not a lot out there. So I have to program her and pour into her every single day in order for her to be successful, because at this point, it's not going to come down to desire and materialistic things, man. It's going to come down to, her wanting to be successful or create more than what her father did, kind of like you want to be, your father probably said, hey, I want you to be 10 times more successful than I am.
Well, I
That's
didn't
probably
get
how
that
he was
at
programming
first.
you.
I didn't get that at first. I was just like, all right, come on, come on. I see everybody else getting it, and it took me to hit a low point. I didn't really understand it until I actually got to a point where I was telling you, about 7 years ago, I got to a point where I wanted to commit suicide, right?
Yep.
And what taught me was a broken heart, because I was like living for this girl. I was doing everything for the girl and whatnot. But
How long were you with her?
I was with her for probably, it was about only 2 years, bro. But at the end of the day, I was paying for the rent for their apartment and everything. I was cooking her dinner every single night. I was quote unquote whipped, right? I
How did
got
that
it.
happen? Well, that's a whole different. I'm like, how did that, but you know what, brother, that right there. See, you might have put, and obviously valuable lesson, right? You might have put you might have attached yourself and your value, right? Who you are as a person so much to this one individual that, when things went south, you went through an identity crisis, and that's probably what lured you into some of these challenges that you had to face.
100%. But I think that whole portion just allowed me to really understand, hey, you know what? I don't, I, it's not something that it should just be given to me, whether it's somebody's respect or whatnot, or monetary value or anything. Nobody's just going to give it to me. I realized that entitlement factor because of the way that my dad brought me up. I was like, you know what? No, I got to earn it. Right. And I think that's really where it started my personal growth and development journey, because I was just like, you know what? I don't deserve it right now. What can I do now every single day that's going to allow me to go out there and deserve it and be worthy of it? And what helped me was realizing that I had to value myself. And the only way I'm going to value myself is keeping self integrity with myself, keeping the promises that I say I'm going to do for myself, and really work on me. Because at the end of the day, if I can't do it for me, I can't do it for another
Mhm.
individual. Right.
You have to love yourself, brother, and you can't be so attached to codependency, right? Like you gotta love yourself. And I I didn't even know this, man. Like, for the longest time, I don't even know if I loved myself. I was so busy in survival mode that I never actually sat down and evaluated how much I loved myself or didn't love myself. And that was part of the reasons why, I myself, never became suicidal, but I fell into some severe anxiety and depression and an identity crisis back in 2017, and then it happened again in 2019. I've been through some of these road challenges, man, these hurdles, and that's why I started really going inward. It's go inside out, not outside in. Because I didn't know. Once the dust started to settle and I wasn't no longer in survival mode, right? Because most of my life was survival. It was like, man, I'm poor. Like, how can I build something? How can I not worry about money? Right? Every day I'm chasing the dollar, worried about money. Well, once you actually become successful, and as you know, money follows success. So once you start making a good amount of money, then money isn't the primary thought every single or driving force every single day, right? So it's like, oh shit, so I made more money than I can count now. So what's next? Right. And then that's when these things come to surface, right? Like, well, you're not very comfortable being by yourself, by yourself, for yourself, with yourself, right? These things started to happen, and all these things started to pop up, man. Like, emotional trauma, trapped emotions, some subconscious trauma. These things started to come up, and that's when I really started getting into personal development. I started paying for coaching from different people, spiritual coach, personal development coaches. And then I started to slowly, by the way, it's not going to happen in a matter of weeks or months. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time to start healing yourself. But once you heal yourself, you literally liberate yourself. And that is true freedom, right? And when I talk about true freedom, I'm not talking about financial freedom where like you can live the life you want and not have to worry about money. I'm talking about true freedom to be able to actually feel and process emotions and create new memories and substitute those old memories with new beautiful memories with your children, with your wife, with wherever you are in life right now, right? That's the type of freedom I'm talking about. Because at the end of the day, man, when we're sitting there on our deathbeds, we're not going to be thinking about all the work that we didn't do or we should have done, all the money that we should have made and didn't make it. Brother, we're going to sit there and we're going to have this glance, right? This 2 minute reel or 5 minute reel of our lives, right? Like when we were born and everything we went through, and our parents and our wives and our children, like, and it's going to be all love. Like you're going to be thinking about all the love that you either had or didn't have in your life. That's what you're going to be thinking about when you're on your deathbed. I can almost guarantee it, because I have spoken and been next to terminally ill people, and that's all they talk about is the memories that they were able to create with those that love them and they love. So that's the real substance of being alive in this world, man.
100%. I think ultimately, just like you were saying, I think it takes really just you going ahead and facing that own trauma, that your own pain, those things that you don't want to face because you understand that you're going to feel something about it. And I feel like people don't like to feel, right? But at the end of the day, what you don't face is what you're going to act out. You're going to have problems with it, right? And
Let me ask you this. What do people do to avoid? Because it's hard. You know this. You went through a suicidal episode, a suicidal season or phase in your life. Like, what do people do to avoid going inward, right? Going inside out. What do people do? You said they numb themselves. They numb themselves.
Distractions, bro.
They
They
distract
they
themselves. Well,
surround themselves with
distraction,
other people.
yeah, distraction is just part of the numbing process, right? Entertainment is part of the numbing process. Drugs are part of the numbing process. Alcohol is part of the numbing process. Porn addiction is part of the numbing process. Working your butt off till you are tired and you can just go home and go to bed. That's part of the numbing process. Sometimes even working out is part of the numbing process. You see what I'm saying? 9 out of 10 people, instead of facing the things that you need to liberate yourself from, right? They numb themselves. They numb themselves. Brother, whether
With
you
external
know this or not,
validation.
I was just about to tell you, whether you know this or not, there might have been a strong possibility that you were numbing some of your internal trauma with your relationship and that external validation.
And I know that, bro. And I know that. Trust me, my biggest problem was I wasn't facing my own truth. But here's the thing, ready? And this is why I called my company True Life Ventures, bro, because I know I personally had a problem facing my own truth. And when you face the truth, you know what they say, the truth will set you free and allow you to live your true life. So my biggest mission in life in general is to help others face their own truth so that they can see their own reality. They can be set free in order to live their true life, to utilize their full potential and go get what they're worth. That's it, man.
By the way, have you noticed how we haven't talked about, you know, most podcasts, right? Oh, I do this and I do that, and private jets and and mansion. Most podcasts are literally that's it, that right. And this is how I know that your podcast is doing what it needs to do, because it's literally going. It's inspiring. It's spiritually impacting and reaching people, and exposing their own limitations, their own limited beliefs, because that, right, our own limited beliefs is what keeps us captive, right? Is what keeps us slaves. Our own limitations and limited beliefs is what allows us or does not allow us to reach our highest potential on earth here. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Your own limited beliefs, your own limited belief system, which, by the way, our own limited beliefs were not even created by us. It was created
External
for
factors.
us by other people.
Yes, sir. I mean, once again, like I said before, the greatest form of control is being in a prison cell and not even realizing you're in a prison cell, bro. At the end of the day, they want you to fucking feel like, you need to depend on external factors or the system, if you want to call it the
Comfort.
system. Exactly.
Comfort.
And
they keep you comfortable.
at the end of the day,
right?
You got to be a free thinker. In order to be a free thinker, you have to hit a certain level of pain, in my opinion.
Well, what did we talk about in the beginning, right? It's easier to be governed. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not one of those crazy like people, the revolution. I'm not like a Che Guevara, I'm not going to start my own Black Panther movement anytime soon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm right there
But
with
the
you.
fact of the matter is, right? A lot of people, it's easier for them to be told what time they have to come into work, told what they have to do at their jobs, told what time they can leave, told how much money they can make, told what they need to eat, right? Told what they need to watch. You see what I'm saying? It's
I think that comes down to accountability, right? People like accountability. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I think people, what is our, like, genetically, what does our brain seek? Comfort, right? If you're cold, what are you going to seek? Yeah, well, if you're cold, your brain's going to tell you to go do what? Go warm up. If you're hungry, your brain's going to tell you go do what? Go get some food. If you're thirsty, it seeks comfort, right? Well, society and humanity on its own, we seek comfort too, right? We seek comfort. It's those that are uncomfortable being comfortable. They're the ones that actually succeed in life. Brother, if I get comfortable, and I've been comfortable, right? You start to gain weight. Guess what? I'm up 5 pounds this week for some reason. You bet believe when I'm off of doing what I got to do here, I'm going to go to the damn gym, because I'm like, wait a minute, bro, I just lost 60 pounds. I don't want to go there again. You know what I'm saying? So again, I don't like being comfortable. If I get comfortable, I become complacent. If I become complacent, then I stop growing. And if I stop growing, I start to die. And if I start to die, right? I become a very unhappy person.
Right there, what you said though, you don't want to go back to that place, right? And I always tell everybody, the
Never.
reason why you're doing what you're doing has to have a pain point attached to it. If you don't have a pain point attached to the reason why you're doing what you're doing, what happens is you're pushing to achieve it. That shit will die out. But when you have that pain point, all right, it pulls you into action to stay intentional, to do everything possible to get closer to that goal because you know where you've been, so you know where you're going, right? That pain point is super
Yeah.
critical in my opinion.
You know what's crazy is this is something I learned from one of my mentors too. Uh, Changing, like losing weight, is painful. Oh man, I got to work out, several times a week. I got to eat the right things, make the right food choices, right? Be aware, have awareness of what I'm putting in my body, right? Losing weight is painful. Like change is painful, right? Change is painful. But just to piggyback on what you just said, right? Most of the time, 99% of the time, pain is what drives change, right? Your pain drove you to change and then succeed. My pain of poverty and everything that I went through drove me to become the person I am today, right? And it's crazy how, my mentor used to tell me this all the time. Until the pain, right? Until the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change, only then will transformation
Let me
happen.
ask you something. Is your mentor Tony?
Tony who?
Tony Robbins, bro. His quote is change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. That's Tony Robbins' quote.
That's crazy. No, my mentor, this is a guy, one of my mentors, Jeremy Wilson out in Sedona. He maybe he saw it in a tone. You know what's crazy, brother, is you may not believe this, but I'm not a huge content consumer. I'm not a content consumer.
I'm a reader. All right.
I'm a reader.
Not
I'm a
like
reader. I guess I'll consume.
not
I'm a
video
reader, but I'm
stuff.
not a content consumer.
Yep.
I'm not watching, Tony Robbins, like the one. Okay, I've watched one Tony Robbins piece of content. It was called "I'm Not Your Guru"
Mm-hmm.
on Netflix, 2016, I believe, right? But I'm not a content consumer as far as like I'm not. I wish I was, but I love to read.
Yep.
I love to read. Right now, one of my goals is to read one book a week. I'm already ahead of that goal. And for this year, and I'm going to hold myself accountable to read one book a week, right? That's commitment, by the way. It's like, hey, I'm committing to this. I'm not just motivated. Oh, it's, new year, new me. No, 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 no. New year, better me, right? It's like I'm committing to one book a week. I'm committing to working out, 4 times a week. I'm committing to making good food choices, right? That's commitment, commitment, commitment. You know what I mean? So I'm not a content consumer, but I probably should start consuming more content from guys like Tony Robbins, and there's so many amazing people out there.
Well, my consumption, really comes from reading books, right? So like I'll experience,
Same.
like I've been through a lot in my life as well, as everybody else has too, right? But I think when you actually take the time to commit, like you're saying, and actually read the books, you start hearing about, different things that other people go through, you start relating, and it actually creates validation to the thoughts that you're coming to and the conclusions that you're coming to when you're reading these books, right? And it just validates you're on the right path, because I think that's actually a huge portion of it, because that comes into the internal validation. You actually believe it before you actually see it somewhere else, and then you see it somewhere else and you're just like, okay, it makes sense now. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, what? So that recently, it's like an aha moment, right? It's
Yep.
like an aha moment, or another guy that I went to. I don't know if you knew this, but back in September, I went to. I by the way, I completely left my family and left everybody and all my businesses for 2 weeks. It was about 14 days. I went to Tampa, and I went to this wellness clinic called Utopia Wellness, where Dr. Carlos Garcia, he's actually helping people heal from stage 3 and stage 4 cancer. By the way, what do you call that? Natural. He's a naturopath, right?
Natural
Natural.
medicine,
Yeah,
natural
natural. It's
medicine. Yeah.
yeah. So absolutely, he's doing it through IVs and glutathione and oxygen chambers, and you know what I mean, like all this beautiful thing. And then also he has a therapist there. So I was seeing this therapist there 2 to 3 times a week, right? And he calls it a coconut moment. Like imagine this is a coconut, right? And you're kind of just walking on the beach next to the palm trees, and then the coconut falls. Aha, right? He calls it a coconut moment. And yeah, so I had a coconut moment. Our podcast, which is All In Entrepreneurs podcast, we had a guy named Omar Elatar, who has a very successful podcast, by the way. It's called The Passionate Few. And it was funny because him and I were going back and forth, and it was like everything that I've lived, right? He can resonate with what I lived through what he's learned, and everything that he's learned, I can resonate through what I've lived. You see? So it was just amazing to see like confirmation of everything that I've been through, and then confirmation, obviously, for him through experience that he's already had, because the guy has interviewed, 10-figure, 9-figure, 8-figure, 7-figure people. That was I had a huge aha slash coconut moment a few weeks ago when we were going back and forth on some of the substance of what life is.
Yes.
So, by the way, you should probably have him on your podcast at some point. The guy is a brilliant individual, and he has a lot of knowledge, man. Omar Elatar, look him up. Passionate Few
I
podcast.
mean, I'd appreciate it if you could hook it up, man, and vice versa. Anything I could do to help you out, once again, I'm all for it. So,
Absolutely,
Carlos,
my brother.
honestly, we didn't even get to the portion I wanted to get to. I wanted to get into crypto, real estate, things like that with you, because I know that you're very big in the real estate game. I'm in the real estate game as well. I have a little bit in crypto. I know that you have the awareness and the knowledge to talk about those subjects. So my question for you is, when are we doing podcast part 2?
Ooh, let's do it. Like, why don't we do it? Why don't we set it up in the next 30 days and talk about the digital gold rush, right? Let's talk about the digital. Let's talk business on part 2, right? This is like foundation, infrastructure, spiritual, which is, by the way, I feel like that's step number 1 for anybody out there that's looking to be successful, right? Just like I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite books, Secret to the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Like, if anybody out there that's listening and wants to align themselves and bring some internal awareness to themselves, go grab that book. I've read that book probably 8 times, and there's an old saying, don't read 10 different books one time, read one book 10 different times. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yes,
So
sir.
that goes a long way for anybody out there that's listening. But I'm committing to a part 2 with you, brother. So we could talk shop and we could talk business, and we can talk about the digital gold rush that's going on, and why people need to triple down on physical land, triple, like multifamily, mobile homes, right? Single family residential. I get it. The metaverse is out there and everybody's racing to build the metaverse, right? So you don't even know who's going to win. Is it Zuck? Is it Apple? Right? Is it Elevator Studio with Dan and Adam Weitzman? Like, who's gonna build the metaverse? Because at this point, everybody's just building shopping malls. That's what they are right now. Everybody's building their own version of a mall, right? And then, like,
Sure.
once people are like, oh, that's the best mall, that's the best mall, then people are going to be like, okay, then slowly but surely these other metaverses are going to become secondary and third and failures, and it's going to be a crazy world in the next 5 to 10 years, man.
Yes, sir. So Carlos, I'm holding you to it. 30 days. Next podcast, part 2.
Well, now you got my personal cell, so we don't have to go through 3 or 4 different people to get this thing scheduled. Like, me and you can just say, all right, brother, when, how, where, let's do it.
Let's do it, bro. Now I'm gonna hold you accountable to part 2, being in person though.
Uh-oh. When am I out in Florida?
I mean, apparently you're gonna be here in the next 30 days.
Oh, hey, wait a minute. Where are you throwing your event?
That's gonna be in Miami, and that's gonna be in March.
Okay. Am I in Florida the next 30 days?
I mean, hey,
Okay, let me
I'm
see.
here
Bro,
first and
believe me, I
figure
would
the rest
love to
out
be
later,
there.
baby.
All right. Yeah, yeah. I would love to be in that chair and just exchange energy with you. You know what I mean? Like
Yes, sir.
physical energy. So all right, my brother, man, let's stay in touch. God bless you, and God bless your listeners out there, man. And just don't give up, man. I didn't give up. I didn't give up, and I don't want anybody out there that's listening. I think that's when you fail. Like, you'll never fail if you don't give up, because guess what? Just like you, just like me, I've had my fair share of failures when it comes to different vehicles slash ventures. You know what I mean?
Yes,
I've,
sir.
I've I've done so many things, and then I finally found what was work, and I just happened to be blessed that what worked for me was real estate investing. And then it started there, and then that grew, and then I started making a good amount of money there, and I started building, creating, and partnering up, and all these other business ventures all across different sectors, from medical to education, right? I mean, whatever you can think of, digital marketing. Like, we started growing all these companies, man, and now we're launching. 2 years later, after letting the dust settle, we're launching e-commerce too. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be a 8 to 9 figure business. So I can't wait for that too.
Let's go, man. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it right here. There you go. Carlos Reyes for you. Go follow him.
Thank you, brother.